Harvard Divinity School.
Uses and abuses of power in alternative spiritualities. Implications for spiritual care of patients and communities. April 27th, 2023.
Thank you so much for opportunity in Harvard Divinity School. I am Alvaro Frias Cruz. I am from Colombia. And these reflections begins in the following documentary, El Rastro de Camilo, in Vimeo. And the name of this panel is The Memory of Camilo, Monuments of Faith and Revolution. This following reflection part about two ideas. First, providing adequate context into who Camilo Torres Restrepo was. And second, describing explicitly how his Marxist interpretation of Catholicism is sufficiently alternative to mainstream Catholicism. Want to try to explain the most important ideas of Camilo Torres Restrepo. El padre Camilo Torres, like is named in Colombia, was born in February in 1929 in Bogotá, capital of Colombia, and he died in February in 1966 in San Vicente de Chucurí, Santander, the homeland from my parents, my mother and my father. Camilo Torres was a professor, a friend, revolutionary priest. From upper class Bogotá family, Camilo Torres began the study of law school in Universidad Nacional in Colombia. Camilo Torres short the studies in National University, but in 1947 abruptly changed his career objectives and joined the Roman Catholic Seminary in Bogotá. His vocation was not grounded in traditional religiosity. He was attracted to progressive social Catholicism that was a strong current in post-war Europe and would gain added impetus from the reforms of the Second Vatican Council and from the movement of the liberation theology. For some people, Camilo Torres was the Che of the Latin American Catholics. The CIA in your papers of the intelligence is named this form. After his 1944 ordination, he studied sociology and Louvain and Belgium, funded and taught sociology at the Universidad Nacional, served as university chaplain, and worked with Colombian Agrarian Reform Agency and on other social programs. Like many Colombian intellectuals of the 1960s, he was influenced by the Cuban Revolution and felt increasingly alienated from his country's political and socioeconomic establishment. Torres was a member of the Agrarian Reform Technical Committee funded by the Colombian Institute of the Agrarian Reform. Camilo Torres' social activism generate to work with Marxists, generate troubles with ecclesiastical superiors, concretely with Archbishop Concha, who ordered him to choose between priestly duties and secular consent. In response, he abandoned the active priesthood in 1965 and launched a new leftist coalition, now como Frente Unido, United Front. Camilo Torres is a grand charismatic leader in Colombia, attracted followers, estudiantes, university alums, but he felt frustration about the difficulty of organizing a viable movement with any chance of implementing any about transformation by peaceful means. He therefore gave up the legal struggle and joined the Ejército de Liberación Nacional, Army of National Liberation, he was the guerrilla organization operating in Colombia was most closely associated with the Cuban model. Torres died in 1966 in the first military engagement with which he took part. Su memory and his writings continued to exert strong influence on Colombian leftists for many. His personal example legitimate to recourse to violent action. In 2019, Colombian Canadian filmmaker Diego Briceño Orduz released the documentary El Rastro de Camilo, who in this moment we watch it. One of the more important of the documentary is the interview of the Padre Camilo in 1966, months before he joined the guerrilla of the National Liberation Army. In this interview, Padre Camilo summarized his home thought. When I realized that in Colombia, we could not love our neighborhood only with charity. With that, we had to change the political, economic, and social structures of the country. Then I understood that the love of neighborhood was closely linked to revolution. You have to ask to oligarchy how they are going to hand over. If they are going to give you peacefully, I think we will take it peacefully. But if they are only going to hand it over violently, then we will take it violently. This message reveals the religious dimension of the civil war in Colombia. In the name of love is assumed as a cause and the need to change structures through violent and not so peacefully means. In this sense, the following questions are: why does a Catholic president renounce religious life and assuming his entry into the guerrilla and the armed struggle as a conviction of his faith? Why is the memory of Padre Camilo maintained in organization, political, social, and religious? Is Camilo Torres a precursor of the Latin American liberation theology? However, not everyone has this heroic vision or admiration for Father Camilo. There are people we consider any exaltation or admiration of their life, work, talk of the revolutionary press like unacceptable because his memory is a form of apology for terrorism or exaltation of communist priests, like, say my grandma, curas rojos o curas comunistas, and of ideological work for the recruitment of the guerrillas. His detractors consider that his memory should be disqualified as someone ideological wrong or because of decision to take arms. Others have persisted in forgetting him and have questioned any initiative to claim his memory and figure. In contrast to these positions, there are other humanists who recognize the importance and study of the work of the Padre Camilo. First, Professor Orlando Falborda, who in the company of Padre Camilo founded the first faculty of sociology at the National University of Colombia. Second, the writer and journalist Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Nobel Prize in Literature, he shared the law school in the university, in National University from Colombia. Third, and the Peruvian priest Gustavo Gutierrez, and reference in Latin American theology, maintained the need to study Camilo and vindicate the life, commitment, and thought of Camilo Torres Restrepo in various facets, and the contribution, conflicts, and lessons learned from his memory of faith and politica as an authentic expression of Christian love. Padre Camilo ideological platform through the United Front was to adopt a system oriented by love of neighborhood. In this way, he took into account some instrument tendencies of the modern world, reiterated socialist ideals, and encouraged regional and national authenticity. It was not a clerical utopia, nor was it less liberal or conservative. His purpose sought to build an open and just society goals that are still being received in various parts in moments in many countries. From this follow to the memory of Camilo, various money experiences and political spiritualities have been generated, which in the light and memory seek to interpret the legacy and life of Camilo Torres Restrepo and his praxis of faith and political with impact, influence, and experience in the political, religious, educational, and organizational of Latin American society. A significant sector of young people from public and private universities in Colombia have found in Camilo Torres Restrepo message a sense of hope, praxis, and effective love in the face of the serious current crisis that Colombian political system is experiencing. These expressions have been called Camilistas. Camilo's message had an impact on new generations and represent a milestone in the story of the church on the revolutionary action and post-hoc challenge to the conservative notion of religion, and specifically of Christianity. In other parts of the continent, his memory fue declared by another armed groups, such as in Argentina, with the Camilo Torres Comandos of the Montoneros guerrilla, and Uruguay with the life of the priest Carlos Zaffaroni. They are press were rising against the established order, and there are no functionally to conservative notion of the state and religion. Camilo image and the news of his death had an unprecedented impact on the life of the Christian on the continent, from the basic ecclesian communities to human rights organizations on theology and popular education process have picked up recognized Camilo as a prophetic figure of academical, political, and spiritual leadership and represented a radical eruption and disruption for his time, for current generation who find in your message the emancipation, liberation, and political praxis as a strong force in light of the gospel. Camilo contributed to the dialogue between Marxism and Christianity, which was being generated and anticipated the need to establish the condition for dialogue between believers and non-believers in revolutionary process for the transformation of the conditions of the oppression generated by the capitalist system and the ruling class, including the role of the Catholic Church as an ally of the state of the power. In the 20th anniversary of his death on February 15 in 1986, two sanctuaries promoted by social, religious, and union organizations will be established in memory of Camilo. The first place was in Barranca Bermeja, where in July 24 in 1965, Camilo made a political assembly in this dissemination and promotion of his political and organizational proposal with the United Front. And second place in Patio Cemento, the place where he died, in El Carmen, San Vicente de Chucurí. In Barranca Bermeja, Santander, the cradle of the oil activity by the Tropical Oil Company, a subsidiary of John Rockefeller Standard Oil of New Jersey, the Camilo Torres Restrepo Park of Knowell, El Descabezado, was built in 1986 as a donation of lands of the Popular and Worker Organization. This monument was destroyed by a bomb the same day it was inaugurated, in context of the degradation of the Civil War in Colombia into military force, paramilitary groups, and guerrilla groups in Magdalena Medio. From the same communities, the funds and the money were collected and the work was built to lay the foundation for construction on part and the location and bus in memory of Padre Camilo. The Bishop of Barranca Bermeja, Juan Francisco Sarasti, was arrested and questioned by the military since they did not agree to remember a criminal and bandit, a communist, as they are commonly called in bad terms. In San Vicente de Chucurí, to place to death was organized a monument was established and declared holy hand. Months later, that place was destroyed in an area of the territorial control of military and paramilitary groups, and prohibition ban was imposed on remembering or allowing any access to place to death in combat de Camilo. 30 years after the first event for the 50th anniversary in February 15 in 2016, promoted by social, religious, and union organization, close to 2 people participating in this event as a pilgrimage to Barranca Bermeja and Patio Cemento. That tree was affected by paramilitary groups who cut down trees and crossed them on the roads by attack people and blockade by the national port, where it was reported and it was not possible to enter to municipality for public order problems. The ecumenical celebration should have been in the middle of the road, and there are the closing action of to keep close. These events represent what the most difficult days in which we can observe the challenges of working with communities and victims when we concrete demands for justice, truth, and reparation in the face of the serious violation of the human rights and international human rights watch and international humanitarian law that have a commitment in the war in Colombia. In this sense, Camilo's memory has a pendular meaning, moving in his claim that moves in the plane of the action of aggression that have been carried in his name and by the group to which we belong. However, the value of the study of the history for the understanding of the current institution and conflicts in the Republic of Colombia is obviously, and in the broadest sense, in the face of the ethical and political dimension of the people who believe in the message of the Jesus with the inclination and action for justice and peace. Conclusion. We must recognize two conflicting elements of the political and historical memory of Camilo Torres Restrepo, one in which recognition of his memory, word and life dominates, and another in which the main thing is to void, annul, and destroy any form to worship to his image, figure, or representation, while the first seeks to train and exalt current and future generation. The second has tirelessly and constantly dedicated it to devastation and destruction for his memory, including the use of the violence to impose his purpose of oblivion. Both are part of the various constructions that are mediated by the contradiction of the war and the annihilation of the enemy, of his heroes, with the ability to determine what should and what should not be remembered in the urban memory of the paramilitary and guerrilla control zone, has a pattern of violence against a civilization population. Of this place where Camilo lived, he was in the world in the development of his religious, academic, and political activities. Many of these become places of memory and remembrance of the revolutionary press. The debris of the remains of the revolutionary press and the expulsion in Ossuary of the chapel of the National University of Colombia is still pending, a place that awaits the memory of Camilo is the natural place for the recovery of memory with his body, in concordance with Catholic tradition. Thank you so much for the space. I'm sorry for my language. I'm trying to explain this. Muchas gracias por todo. Salud desde Bogotá. Hasta luego. Thank you so much.
Sponsored by the Program for the Evolution of Spirituality.
Copyright 2023, President and Fellows of Harvard College.